I'm Rachel Alday, and this is the Hospitality Breakroom, a podcast full of nuggets and secret sauce, where every Monday we'll shed light on what we've learned from the countless mistakes we've made along our journey in the chaotic and rewarding world of vacation rentals. Hi, and welcome back to the Hospitality Breakroom. I'm here with Mark today. Mark has been on our team at Abode for how many years?
8 years.
8 years. But he's been doing vacation rental sales for how long?
Yeah, another 4 on top of that, probably 12 years.
So 12 years. Yeah. That's a lot, compared to most people these days.
Yeah.
So I think what we're going to do with Mark is just talk about some of the tips and tricks. And I know that sounds cheesy, but like some of the nuggets, like we like to say, the little, the things you've learned, the ways, I think with reservation sales, which is what Mark does, I think that some of the most valuable nuggets, per se, are ways to overcome obstacles or to get someone to close. Because I feel like I have only done that a tiny bit, but I have done other sales in my life. And it's like you start to develop those phrases or like wording that you know works most of the time. And so it's like, that's what I was thinking we could share. That sound good?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So, to me, one of the biggest ones is overcoming obstacles, because I think when we've had other salespeople that worked for us in the past and it didn't work out, it always seems like it's because they get hit with those questions like, what's with all these fees? And then they don't know what to say. And they'll have to be like, let me call you back. And then they'll come and talk to Rob and I. This was a long time ago, but that was kind of how it was. And so I feel like you know how to do that. And I actually don't even know what the answers would be, but I feel like you will. So what's some of your favorite like phrases or tricks when you're dealing with a guest or an inquiry that they're like, let's say they're questioning fees? Right? What's some of the ways that you use to get around that?
So even before that, for me, for any salesperson, I think it's really important to be yourself.
Yeah.
Right? You got to be yourself.
Totally.
My gift is connecting with people. I can do that. It's just my gift that I ended up with.
Yeah.
And so if you can be yourself and connect with people and give them confidence that you're honest with them, there's your basis right there.
Yeah.
Okay. And then, from there, the next thing to me would be to find out what they want, to ask a question, like, what's this vacation about?
Yeah.
Okay. Is it grandma's birthday? Is it little Johnny's first time skiing ever? Like, why do you want to come here?
Yeah.
And then you answer those questions and try and give people what they want.
Yeah.
Right. So, just doing that. Hey, I trust this guy. He sounds honest. He's asking me what I want.
Yeah.
And he's paying attention to me. You are going to get less questions.
Yeah.
And it's funny because as fees have gone up, I think, at least from my perspective, we get a lot less questions and our fees are higher.
Yeah. It's true. That's weird. That's true.
It is weird. But what I'll tell people is, we're not a hotel. And so when you're in a hotel, if you want a pillow up to your room, they've got a whole room full of them, and somebody working there can have it up there in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And if you're in a private home somewhere, if you want a pillow, somebody's going to have to drive to the office to get it.
Yeah.
Drive it up to your house and give it to you, and then drive back to the office.
Yeah.
So, it takes a lot of time.
Yeah.
A private home is different than a hotel.
Yeah.
And it's funny, I laugh. People complain about a $35 hotel fee. And,
right.
we know what our fees are. They're way more than that.
Yeah.
But, we put way more into it than somebody at a hotel.
Yeah.
So, I don't really apologize for them.
Yeah.
We do have a couple fees. Our basically self-insurance fee, the damage waiver, which is a non-refundable $149 fee, and a service fee. It's $150 to cover credit card.
Yeah.
I'll give a little on those.
Yeah.
Hey, how about if I not $300 off.
Yeah.
And so they feel like they've won.
Yeah.
I've given something to them
Yeah.
that doesn't affect, the nightly rate for the homeowner.
Yes. Yes.
Or our other fees that we use to cover all our costs.
Yeah.
And so,
No, that's good. I mean, I do think it's good advice to explain how we do negotiation too, because I feel like we do a decent amount of negotiating.
Yeah.
And I think people look at our business, people like, I would say in general, look at Abode, like, oh, you have such high nightly rates. It's so different than my company because our rates are only a couple $100 a night or whatever. But I think that since our rates are higher, we do have to use sometimes more creative negotiation tactics, because if you go off a percentage, it could be huge when you're talking about like an $80,000 reservation. And then somebody's like, can you take 10% off? It's like, whoa, no.
No, right.
But there's other stuff you can do, which I think that's a really good point. Like looking at your fees as a possible way a place to start with negotiation.
I also explain to people that, they go, wow, what a nightly rate. And it's like, so our lowest price condo here, somebody paid well over $1 million for it in Park City. And a lot of our homes are 4, 5, 15, $20 million homes.
Right.
That's a huge investment.
Yeah.
And the homeowner and us have a relationship. People always say, well, don't they want somebody in there?
Right.
It's like, no, they don't want somebody in there.
Isn't it better to have someone rather than no one? Or is it better to have some revenue for the house other than none? It's like, no, that's not true. Yeah.
And all homeowners are different. Some people don't want anybody in their driveway if they don't get their number.
Yes.
And other people are like, just let's get somebody in there. So it just depends. You can negotiate on rates a little bit, maybe during lower demand times. But, people, high demand times, I mean, we are ahead of last year for the winter reservations. There's not much left already. It's November 1st tomorrow.
Yeah.
And
now it's crazy.
It's crazy.
Because people are, we are talking about, even our business, I feel like, is going to be slightly down. I mean, potentially, maybe not. Every year we say that and it ends up not being down. But I know like across the board in the industry that stuff is kind of down and people are getting nervous. And I think that homeowners don't understand that yet. So the rates aren't necessarily changing that much. And I don't know if guests get that yet. I mean, has that affected the way that you sell right now?
Well, it's interesting because, we have homeowners that say, well, why can't you get any more reservations? And, sales 101, if you put a price on something and no one buys it, the price is too high. And you could talk all the details you want, but it's like the price is too high. And if you price it in line with other similar types of properties, typically that thing goes.
We run into that a lot. I think I've said this on here before, but like a lot of our homeowners, because their homes are really expensive, a lot of them will say like, this is the best home in Sun Valley, or this is the best home in Jackson Hole. And, that might be up for interpretation, but it's not like, usually it's not a crazy thing for that person to think, but it's also like a guest online looking to book has no idea if this is the best or one of the best homes. We might put some of that in the description, but like, they don't know. They're just looking at it as a comp for other similar bedroom count properties. And so it's like, when a homeowner is looking to get some price point that's way higher than a comp because they think their house is really special, and maybe it is, it's really hard for the guests to understand that because it's not real estate, it's vacation rental. So it's like totally different.
And what's special to somebody, it's not necessarily special to somebody else, and somebody might look at a Jackson Hole cabin and think, oh, wow, it's an old Wild West cabin.
Totally.
This is incredible. And the next person might go, I don't want some oldie boldy wood,
totally
antler chandelier place. And it's, what do people want? I mean, that's why it's so important to figure out what they want.
I mean, so it sounds like you're talking about like the communication and connection process, like while you're dealing with a lead at the beginning and like making that connection.
Always trying to connect with somebody, basically.
I mean,
even down to like, oh, you're from Pittsburgh? I went to high school there.
Yes.
And I skied at Seven Springs all the time. Oh,
Yeah.
you were at the Springs? Yeah. And it's just
Totally.
like, it's my gift for
Yeah.
somehow I can do that.
Yeah.
But,
Do you have like a tip for that? Like, is it like you try to go off of where they're from, or maybe like a sports team, or like what's your
totally.
Okay.
Those two things exactly. Where are you from? Hey, how about those Steelers? Or, oh, wow, did you go to the beach every day? Or just anything like that, just like I'm paying attention to who you are, basically.
Totally.
Yeah.
And we like to get with our guests, we like to get client information, like group information, try and see like what kind of a group it is. Is it an extended family, like the grandparents with their adult children and some kids, or is it like a group of guys, like maybe they're like doing a ski trip around the Super Bowl time or whatever. So do you have any tried and true tactics on like figuring out group info or that kind of stuff?
Just trying to figure out again, why are you coming here? And it's like, okay, if it's grandpa and grandma that are booking a family retreat somewhere, they blurt that out to you, oh, we're bringing the whole family for, we've never been to Jackson or Park City or Sun Valley. We're bringing the whole family and, oh, wow, or it's my wife's 70th birthday, and they a lot of times they tell you, buddy trips, you pretty much know what we want to be close to skiing and maybe walk to downtown and, get people talking.
Yeah.
Have you been here before?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. What did you like? Oh, how about this restaurant? Have you ever been to Shabu?
Right.
It's my wife and my favorite restaurant.
Yeah.
And again, it's just about being yourself and making connections.
Which, I mean, I think a lot of this is like, you're comfortable in what you do. Like you've been doing it, you know what you're doing. So you are having like an authentic conversation with someone because you're not trying to like,
authentic is the key word.
Yeah.
The guy's not reading bullet points into the phone to me, right?
You're not like reading off some script.
Yeah.
And so like, what about tips for people? What if someone is either they're just starting their company and they're like doing their own sales, like we used to do in the old days, which we probably did not do very well, let's face it. Or like maybe they just started working in reservation sales in the industry.
Yeah.
And so they're not going to have that level of comfort. Like they're just not.
Yeah.
So like, what are some of the ways? I mean, is it like a just fake it till you make it, just jump right in? Or is it like try like, I don't know, what do you think is like that?
Well, it's interesting. I had an experience with another company where we were the white label call center.
Okay. This is in a previous job.
Previous job, many different locations. Hey, this is Mark with Park City.
Yeah.
Hey, this is Mark with Vail.
Uh-huh.
How y'all doing? This is Mark with Pigeon Forge, Tennessee. Y'all coming to the car show? And so we sold Hawaii beach vacations. And people would be like, well, how close is it to the beach? I've never been to Hawaii.
I've never been to Hawaii either. Okay.
I took the course and I'm Googling and looking at the prop, putting the address. Oh, it's about 100 yards or it's a 2-minute walk or whatever, So you just, you do kind of fake it till you make it sometimes, And I think I had one mentor at the first place tell me, he goes, the best thing that you can possibly do when selling vacations is to know those properties inside and out, basically.
Yeah.
Know where it is.
Which is hard if you're not local to it.
It is hard if you're not local. And, how do I get to the ski slopes from there? Is there a bus there?
Mm-hmm.
All those things. What about the beds? And, I'm not great in beds, but our website's really, really good.
Yeah.
And so if I'm about to talk to somebody about a property that I don't know that well, I have that pulled up right in front of me. So if they ask me a question, it sounds like I have it off the top of my head, even though
like bedding configuration.
Right.
Totally.
Bedding configuration. And our descriptions are great for that. The bathroom's on the first floor, it's ensuite, whatever. And it describes the house exactly. And so I think that's, having great pictures, which we spend a lot of resources and time on to make those look accurate. I think that's super helpful. Having that property knowledge, if you're looking for a person to sell Park City, some people are just natural salespeople that can sell anything, but you're going to want somebody who's been around for a while.
Well, because, for us, our majority of our team is based in Park City, Utah, including our reservation salespeople. And then we have local teams in each of our markets in Jackson Hole and Sun Valley, but the reservations are being booked out of Park City. And so how do you feel about your ability? I mean, one thing that we do is we try to take our sales and our marketing team once or twice a year to Jackson and Sun Valley with like enough days that we can make sure they get to see any properties they haven't seen yet. Do you feel like that's enough for you? Like, do you feel like that works pretty good?
Well, I think, twice a year has been pretty good.
Yeah.
And, I always want to go to Jackson or Sun Valley as many times a year as I can. Who doesn't, right? But yeah, it's super helpful, and we go out and sample all the good restaurants as a group, which is, it's unofficial team building exercise, basically.
No, but it does make a difference for selling because then you're able to tell people, like, if they say, well, what do you recommend for a restaurant? You can be like, well, you can talk to our concierge. But I will tell you, the last time I was there, I had this. Yeah. It's real.
Go to I love the macadamia nut crusted halibut, just those little things like that.
Yeah.
And and the houses in Jackson, we know pretty well. I do after 8 years of all the trips up there. Just again, that property knowledge makes it easy to sell.
Yeah. And I think it depends too, because like some places, like I always try to use the Southeast as a comparison point because there's so many vacation rentals companies there. But it's like when you're talking about those properties, it's usually, I think, like condos, like boxes in a box, right? Like a building full of condos. And so it would be easier to sort of understand what you're selling. Whereas for us, most of the time, not always, but a lot of our properties are freestanding homes and they can be completely different. And so it's like, if you haven't seen it in person, cannot be authentically describing it.
Yeah.
So I do think, like, I guess maybe that would be a nugget too, is like for anyone that manages properties in multiple markets, if your sales team is all based in one place, which is highly likely, then you want to make sure your sales team and your marketing team is getting out to physically go into all the properties in the other markets. And I think it's good too to experience some of the stuff that you might be recommending, like through your concierge or guest services, because otherwise, like for us, our concierge team is based out of Park City. So they have to learn all of the places to go in Jackson and Sun Valley. And so they take trips to Sun Valley and Park City as well, which I think is important.
Yeah.
Okay. So what about like other, I like in my head, it's overcoming obstacles, which is always like I don't know, is tax one that comes up? Like, is that something you've had to figure out? No.
Yeah, not really. Resort, what I would say of overcoming an obstacle is, you come to this town, there's these incredible public facilities, you want to go work out at probably a way nicer gym than anywhere where you live.
Yeah.
It's $10 for the day.
Right.
It's taxes that pay for all that stuff. It's taxes that pay for the free bus transportation.
That's not like a crappy urban bus. It's like a nice.
Right. It's a nice bus, and the taxes pay for all the amenities that we have around here.
Yeah.
And,
safety.
and the visitors pay their a good share of the load on that.
Yeah.
But, they benefit from that as well, too. So,
yeah. What about like closing? Like, I feel like, I did some sales for us for like maybe a 2-year period on Sundays only. I'm sure no one even remembers that because I probably did a terrible job. But I do remember that it's like the closing piece, like where you're talking to someone about this. And these, of course, the properties that we manage are expensive. So when we're closing a sale for reservations, it's generally like between, say, maybe $5 to $7 grand up to like $200,000 for 1 week or 1 2-week period. And so that's like a huge sale to close. So I found it hard sometimes to like do the close because I would want to be like, okay, let's just do it. Give me your credit card, over the phone if I was talking to them.
Yes.
But I mean, it's a huge thing. And it's like, if it's me and if I was booking a $20,000, which I don't think I ever have, but if I was going to stay somewhere for 20 grand with my family, it would be like, before I click that button or whatever, I'd probably be like talking to my husband, like, all right, are we cool with this? Does this really make sense for us? So I'm wondering, like, do you have any tips and tricks for like getting that close?
Well, first of all, you're telling yourself a story a little bit there because if somebody called you and you sent them a house that's $20,000 and they call you back, it's like,
they want it.
They want to book it.
That's
They're not calling you if they didn't want to give you the money, basically.
You're right.
And I'm a little bit softer. I just basically, do you have any more questions?
Yeah.
You think this will fit your needs for your trip?
Yeah.
Yeah. Would you like to reserve it? And
Yeah.
give them the policy, or the 50% down or whatever, and say, yeah, give me a credit card and we'll get this reserved. You can get this done and cross it off your list.
And it's true. I am telling myself a story, which is like, this is my favorite stuff because I love therapy and talking about therapy. And I was in therapy yesterday. And that's such a therapy thing that they always say, like, are you, is that real or is that a story that you're telling yourself? And it's so true, like in every part of every business.
And we all tell ourselves stories too.
All day about it.
I do too. I try not to, but I do.
Nature. Yeah. It's like how your brain works. It's just how it is. But I think that's something really interesting to think about with sales too. It's like every part of the sales process, of course, as humans, we're going to like make up a story as to why it's going this way or that way and like trying to figure out the other person so we can give them what they want.
Right.
And so hard not to do that. But I think like once you have more experience, like you do, it's like you can see it right away. Like, oh, you're telling yourself a story. So no, just let the sale happen. I feel like is what you said. Like you don't have to push it. You don't have to think of like a closing technique. Like they're coming to us. They want it. Yeah. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Yeah. And I want people to be happy.
Yeah.
And so if somebody is going to spend their last nickel to go way more than they should, I'm not going to push them to do that. I want people to be happy.
Yeah.
And, if they're occasionally you'll get, we've had one guy, I can't remember his name, Tilly could tell you. And every year he'd call us and ask about this house and that house. And it was just like, I think he probably had some psychological issues or whatever. And but it's like occasionally you'll get that. But if somebody's talking to you about a $20,000 reservation, I mean, how many people go online? Blows my mind still. They go in to Airbnb and put their credit card in for $60,000.
Yeah, or 150 or whatever. We see it all like every day.
We see it every day.
Yeah.
And it's like, what?
Yeah.
You don't even want to talk to anybody yet,
Because like I'll see every reservation come through on my phone, like as an email. Yeah. I know you guys do too. But so all of those ones, I always know like the title and how it looks. So I always open every one of those right away because I'm always like interested to see what just booked. And so, yes. And sometimes they'll be like an 80,000 and 120,000. And it's like, and I can tell that they're coming through like Airbnb or VRBO or whatever, by the way, the email that we get is formatted. And it's like, oh my God, someone just went online and just boop.
Right.
Yeah. It's crazy. It's true. Like, which would really create the necessity to not tell stories because I think almost anyone would think of a reservation like that and tell a story to yourself that it'll be a hard close, but it's not necessarily.
Not.
It's almost like
it's almost easier because they can afford it. They know what they want.
That's what I was going to say.
If you give it, this is what you want. Okay, this, boy, those setting expectations ahead of time is a big deal for something like that.
Yeah, setting expectations. We've learned that over the years. I mean,
that's a hard lesson to learn if you blow basically. Right?
Yeah. First I want to go over one thing and then we'll go over setting expectations. Self-forget. But I was just thinking, and I think it's kind of what you were alluding to too. It's like, because our guest profile is not really someone that's saving up. Because if you're spending, say, 15 grand to anything, then once you get upwards of 20, 30, like at that point, this is not something that someone's saving up for. Because it's like, if you were saving, you're talking more about, I would think, something up until 10 grand or even like under 5. Because that's going to be where you're kind of, maybe you're thinking about a trip that you're taking. So you're going to like collect your money from what you get paid and use it for that. But I think once you get to a certain dollar amount, and there's probably research on this, then it's like, it's not about saving. As people can make that money back in a minute or a day or a week. Like even if it's 200 grand, they're definitely not concerned about the money. It's like picking the right house and all that stuff. And so then that is a total shift in sales process. Like when you think of salespeople that are selling maybe $250 a night, $350 a night.
Disneyland.
Right.
This family saved every nickel for 5 years so they could take their kids basically, and it's a $5,000 trip. $2,500 or whatever it is.
I don't think you could do Disney for $2,500.
Yeah, probably.
I wish if we went and oh my God. But I do think like the sales process could potentially be more difficult and have more obstacles for a lower nightly rate.
Totally.
Right?
I agree. Totally. It's interesting. This is an old statistic. So this statistic is 30 years old.
Okay.
I lived over in Colorado, and at that time, mid 90s, an average to bring a family of four for a week to Vail for a ski trip, $30,000. That's 30 years ago.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
What do you think that is
For
now,
sure.
right?
Well, we know because we know like people will book for their extended family. So let's say it's like a husband is booking for his wife and his two kids and his babysitter and his mother and father and his brother and his sister and here's your gift, right? So they're going to book a big house and that could be $100,000 if they're coming like Christmas or whatever.
Sure.
And then we'll do concierge for them. So we'll book their ski lessons and all their stuff. And they could be easily spending another $100,000.
They haven't bought a hamburger or a beer yet, basically.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. So it's like they're going to be spending $100,000 on the house because if they want a nice house during a peak week, that's ski in, ski out or whatever, you're looking at
Right.
6 figures. And then if you're talking about private ski instructors, renting all your gear, going out to nice dinners, having a chef, like you could easily hit another window right there.
Right.
And that's like, I mean, I think that most people get that about ski vacations, but I do think that's maybe one of our big obstacles is like during the stay. I don't know how you feel about this. I feel like maybe people get so excited and it's not like they're saving up. So they book their, let's say $50,000 lodging. Then they book some stuff with us. Maybe they come out to their own ski lift tickets and their own gear and stuff. And I think people start to get kind of crusty sometimes in the middle of their trip because they're just like, I am spending so much money, especially around like Christmas and like because of gifts.
Our biggest competition is the other thing, and this has been this way for years, is not other ski areas. It's the beach, basically. And mom,
oh yeah, that's so true.
Mom wants to go to the beach.
So true.
Dad wants to go skiing. And, I raised my family in Park City and in Breckenridge and knew what to do. And it was still pretty big hassle to find my boys skiing when they were schlepping their stuff and crying and hungry and worth every second of suffering.
Yeah.
But
it's a lot.
It's a lot. And especially if you do it once a year or it's the first time you ever did it, mom wants to go to the beach and read her book. And,
so that's I think that's part of the reason why sometimes people get crusty, like get a little like pissy in the middle of their trip. She's just like, oh my friggin' God, I'm so done with taking all that. Yeah.
Schlepping their gear around and, this place doesn't have a 12-inch frying pan in it.
Right.
Whatever.
Yeah. It's true. Yeah, it's true. But I have heard other company owners in other ski markets say to me like, oh, I love doing this business, which I love it too. But they'll say like, I love this because, people just check in. We never hear from them and then they leave.
Yeah.
And I was like, what?
Yeah.
That's not how it goes.
Yeah, that's not how it goes.
And I do think so. That would be probably the downside, one of many. If there's a yin and a yang for everything. But is the upside for higher end, higher dollar nightly rates is maybe we don't have to overcome as many obstacles because we're not trying to talk someone into partying with their money that they, saved up for a long time. But, more like people are partying with money they have extra anyway. But a downside would be people are spending more money. And so there is a huge expectation.
Higher price, higher expectations, with lower price, lower
expectations thing. Yeah. But people have these huge expectations and they spent so much money. So they kind of feel like, so everything has to be perfect. And I want to feel like a princess the whole time. And if that doesn't happen perfectly, then they have a million reasons to jump on you.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. But so expectations is something we've talked about over the years a zillion times. So if a house has construction going on next to it, or if, I don't know, if there's a queen bedroom in one room and not a king, which we always put on the site, but if maybe there's an elevator, which you can see pictured in the photos, but it's not listed in the description, things like that, where it's maybe there's a home that has an elevator, but we don't want them to use it because elevators always break. Never put an elevator in a vacation rental. It's the worst idea. But,
and never ride in one. Yeah. You're in there. You might be stuck for half a day.
Elevators break. I don't care if it's a $5 million house or a $50 million house. Elevators break all the time. But so being able to set expectations. Right. If you want to talk about how you've done that before, whether it's construction, elevator, whatever.
Just really. So for a ski trip, you've got price. They called you, they saw the price, they're talking to you. Okay, you're past that. You got location.
Yeah.
Be very clear about how do I ski? How do I get to
this? Is really important in Park City.
It's so important.
Yeah.
This type of vacation.
Yeah.
Location.
Well, because also in Park City, there's one resort that you can only go to if you're skiing. No snowboarders allowed. And so people in the past, this rarely happened, but it has, they will spend the big bucks for like Christmas week to book a ski in, ski out house at Deer Valley, thinking they're going to snowboard. And then when they get there and they show up and they can't snowboard out of the house and they have to go to a different resort, they freak out. So we do try to check that.
Right. Check that. Ski school's a big one too.
Oh,
like everybody who's looking for winter, I'm like, you need to get on the phone after we hang up and book your ski school lesson now if it's President's Weekend.
We send people emails every year, like ski lift tickets are for sale right now. Go book yours. They will sell out because they always sell out. And it's the same with lessons. Like lessons sell out. Go do it. And then people every year, they don't do it. They show up. They don't have ski lift tickets. They don't have lessons and they can't get any. And we can't help them. I mean, sometimes we can, we try, but like, when it's sold out, it's sold out. Yeah. So okay, keep going.
So, expectations there, bedding, it's easy to go through the house, you try and figure out, is this house going to work for you? Great.
Yeah.
It's like, how many couples do you have? Are they sharing a king or do you need 11 dude beds?
Right. Yeah.
Oh, right.
Yeah. Or like when there's like two twins that could be separated between two beds or they could be made into a king.
Yeah. I mean, that's really important. Really, price and location and the amenities of the home. Hot tubs are so important to people.
Yeah. I know the hot tub.
That's been the bane of my existence for decades, basically. And we're getting better and better at managing those and like getting owners up. Like, tub's 20 years old. They don't make any replacement parts for this anymore.
We can't fix it.
We're giving your money back.
Yeah.
If the thing does not work, basically.
Totally. Because so we always tell, like in ski markets, hot tubs are so important. And when people go online to book, they're going to be checking off the box that says, do they want a hot tub or not? They check the hot tub box and they do. And now if your property is listed online and you don't have a hot tub, you basically just disappeared off the face of the earth because, they want a hot tub. So now you don't show up. So we're always talking to people about that. Yeah. And then we're always trying to deal with the hot tubs because they break. And so then when people show up and they really wanted a hot tub and it's broken and they want their money back, which I kind of get, but then it's really hard for us to stay on top of it because the hot tub during one guest stay could just stop getting hot enough or whatever. And you can't get apart.
They break.
Yeah. They break a lot.
Yeah. Toyota and Honda don't make hot tubs.
Yeah. They should.
It's the brother-in-law companies make them.
So
basically.
True. Yeah, so true. Yeah. So hot tubs are always like everyone has to, I guess in the Southeast, it's probably like pools, right? Like you have to have a pool or it has to be a pool in the complex. And in a ski market, you have to have a hot tub. Yeah. Like, and homeowners will always say to us, like, well, I hate hot tubs. I don't want one in my house. Like, I also hate, I think I hate hot tubs. I would very venture to say I hate hot tubs more than our homeowners hate hot tubs. Like, I think they're disgusting and annoying, but the guests won't say. So, yeah.
And that's the guests telling themselves a story about the fireplace, the hot tub, and they painted this picture for themselves.
Yeah, a ski trip looks like a fire burning, a hot tub,
that stuff, and it's cool. I mean, if that's what they want, that's what we should try and give them. But sometimes the pilot light blows out,
right?
Sometimes the pump breaks in a hot tub.
Yeah, totally. Okay, so like hot tub setting expectations. Yeah. So like, let's say there's a house that has not had any hot tub issues. Do you ever say anything like or no? Is it like something where you would set an expectation because you already know you're looking in our notes on Breezeway or whatever, and you're like, this one has a finicky hot tub, so I'm just letting you know this hot tub is a little finicky.
Absolutely, we'll tell them that. And and a lot of people say, hey, hot tub's really important. Is it working?
Yeah.
And that note goes right into the reservation on Breezeway as well, too. It's like, make sure you check this. The day before or whatever it is. Make sure that the grill works. Some people, it's like we, have propane for every grill. Yeah. But if somebody asks about it, I'm like, check that tank.
Yeah. A lot of our grills are like hooked up to the house. Yeah. Some of them have propane tanks.
Right. Yeah.
And then what's going to happen. It's going to be freaking New Year's Eve, and they're going to have ordered $500 worth of steaks. Yeah. And they're not going to go out to that grill until like 8:30 p.m. And everything's closed now. Yeah. And so they're like calling us saying like, our life is ruined.
Yeah.
We can't cook our steaks that were $1 zillion because there's not enough propane in the tank. And we just found out right now. And then we go have to like scramble. So now we keep extra tanks. Yeah. But I don't know anything else. Like, what about the construction thing?
Yeah. The only other thing is I try and be honest. We have luxury properties, but we have some properties that are less luxurious than
like
other ones. And, I just tell people, it's been recently upgraded, or, this is not an upgraded property.
Yeah.
And, look at the pictures.
Yeah.
They're
I think that's important.
Yeah, totally important,
Because price points can confuse people.
Right.
Because like people that, let's say the Southeast, and people go to the Southeast, they spend maybe $500 a night, $700 a night, and they are staying in like the penthouse of the building. Like maybe they're spending $1,200 a night. Yeah. They're going to get this really nice unit, property, whatever, what have you, depending on the time of year and whatever. Then they come out to Park City, let's say, or Jackson Hole, and they're booking. Let's say it's not Christmas, because that's going to be way too. But let's just say it's like, it's more peak times. It's not the early part of the winter or the end. Maybe it's like in January at some point. And so maybe they're going to spend $1,200 a night. So they are thinking, because of their comparison on price point from what they paid in the Southeast to what they're paying in, let's say, Jackson in the winter, that this is going to be just as fancy. And that this has come up a number of times, because then people will call us and be like, you said this was luxury, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, well, it is because of the price point. And because a lot of times it's like maybe the proximity to the mountain, the location makes it luxury, the neighborhood that it's in, and all of our units. Like, we don't take on units that are totally disgusting and like, really, really run down. But in the mountains, some units, some properties will have more rustic looking furniture and leather. And so it might be like older, but it's part of the vibe of it, but it's not brand new. And then people will be like, I can't believe I paid $1,200 a night for this, which is like, from our standpoint, it's like, that's the cheapest thing we have.
Right. Yeah.
Like, this stuff goes up to $10,000 a night, but it was just really hard to set an expectation. I don't know. How do you do that?
Homes are individually owned.
Yeah.
So you tell them that, right? Yeah. It's like, I'm thinking of the picture on the wall in Park I-10.
Yes. We have a unit that we manage that, like, all the furniture and the art and the knickknacks with this one house were like set.
They were
staged. They were staged for the sale of the house. And then the person that bought it kept all the stage stuff. And so then when we put people, there's one piece of art in this house that has like, it looks like the Last Supper if it was like a little more like homoerotic. It's like kind of what it looks like, right? It's like the Last Supper.
Oh yeah, that's very delicate.
But everyone's like dressed in a little bit of like, there's an S&M feeling going on. Yeah. It's not like dirty.
No.
But there are like men with their shirt off and women that are, is there women in it?
Dressed as nuns.
Yeah, women's dressed as nuns, but like scantily clad.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And then there's like, there's a lot of like innuendo with like lobster and bottles of liquor and stuff like that. And so this is like a major prominent area in this property, and it's a really nice property. But yeah, so do you tell people about that when they're booking?
No.
Oh, okay.
No one really has ever complained about that.
I mean, I've heard people say, like, people have commented to me about it before. Like,
yeah.
It's funny because the owner of that property is like an older, really conservative gentleman. I believe he lives in like St. Louis or Oklahoma, like somewhere.
City, yeah.
Okay, somewhere like conservative.
Yeah.
And so interesting that the house has that. Yeah. Okay, but like expectation wise, to close out expectations, is there anything else that you feel like you do that's like to set expectations correctly, or like just something that you've learned over the years through experience that like, all right, this is an example of like, I want to make sure I set an expectation in this situation, maybe like with snow, like how much snow we have.
Or I mean, that's always the question on a ski trip. And it's like, hey, if I could control the weather, I'd make snow here for you.
Yeah.
But, the weather is beyond anybody's control, basically.
Right.
And so
we get that question.
I mean, especially during early season trips, I'd say, town lift almost never opens until Christmas week, basically. And people are booking from the beginning of December thinking, oh, I'm just going to hop on the lift and tell everybody.
Yeah. Do you tell them that? Like,
of course. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Which I think that's important.
Yeah.
Because it's like, you don't want someone to get here and be disappointed. I do think even if you tell people like, hey, there might not be enough snow, I think the way human nature works is that people are like, no, it'll be fine, it'll be great. But at least you said it.
I've had a few people cancel in, Old Town before here.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's a free bus ride less than a mile away to the resort. But that's what they wanted. And it's like, okay.
Yeah.
You can cancel.
Yeah. I agree. Okay. Is there anything else like tidbits, nuggets, secret sauce that you would want to share about your experience in vacation rentals and specifically in reservation tests?
Well, you asked me about, what I think about my biggest mistake.
Oh, yeah.
And I have over the years been way too helpful to people, basically.
Oh, like what do you mean?
So somebody calls in and this is their budget and that is what they want. And instead of going, you know what, we just don't have that.
Yeah.
I'd spend a bunch of time
Trying to
seeing if
figure
I
it
could
out.
get a deal or trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
Because I'm overly helpful.
Yeah.
And, I've learned it wastes lots and lots of time.
Yeah. And probably their time too. Like they're probably grateful if you're just like, I don't think it's
can't do it. Not gonna happen, and it's just like it because usually you fail if you're trying to be too helpful, right? You can't make it happen.
Do you ever like recommend other companies? Like you should look up this company or look up.
I'm very careful as to who I recommend for anything.
Right.
And full disclaimer, I have a family member working here.
Yeah.
I had no problem recommending her at all because I knew her, but like, I tend to shy away from recommendations.
You're like worried if you recommend another company and then they have a bad
and they drop the ball, right? Yeah. I say there's other companies around town. You can check with them if they wanted something specific.
Yeah. I mean, I do like, I did homeowner acquisition for so long.
Yeah.
So I would always I was good at being like, no, if it was not the right fit. Yeah. Although there were some gray areas that I probably went the wrong way on a few times. But then I usually recommend like another company. Mm-hmm. I think that's a little bit different though, too, because that's like a much more intense relationship between the property owner and the property manager. I don't know. Is there anything else you had like prepared to talk about today that we didn't go over?
Well, I have one other thing, and I was going to read you a quote.
Oh, yeah. Tell me.
And it's about the environment that we're in here right now.
Uh-huh.
And so then it is pertinent because it's the environment that we're all in and all working right now. And so you got people shooting at people for cutting them off on the highway and, just the whole political thing. And this actually, my wife just sent this to me the other day, and the quote is from it's a podcast, I think a podcast called The Corners, by Nadia Bills-Weber.
I gotta look that up.
Yeah, I'll send you the link.
Okay,
take you a second just to pull it up here.
Yeah, Mark and I trade podcasts and book recommendations. Everyone knows that I have an obsession with our Abode library. I'll talk about it all day. But Mark's been really good. Like I'll tell him like, oh, I listened to this book. I'm going to send it to you, Mark. And then he'll send me one.
Yeah. So I just do not think that our psyches were developed to hold, feel, and respond to everything coming at them right now. Every tragedy, injustice, sorrow, and natural disaster happening to every human across the entire planet in real time, every minute of every day. The human heart and spirit were to develop to be able to hold, feel, and respond to any tragedy, injustice, sorrow, or natural disaster that was happening in caps in our village.
Yeah. But now we see everything all over the world.
So easy just to get swept into that.
It is.
And I think having empathy for people. Yeah. We had somebody that from Black Mountain, North Carolina, that was scheduled to come to Jackson Hole. 2 days before their arrival was when that hit over there. And we were originally going to move their reservation. They're still stuck at their house, basically. Yeah. And we called the owner, and, the owner wanted the money, but they said, how about we'll refund 50% and keep 50%.
Oh, yeah.
And I thought that was an amazing compromise, and that guy showed empathy too, even though, he was the one who was out, basically.
No, that's a really good point. So at Abode, we don't have full refunds. And like once you're closer in than 60 days out from your arrival, then we technically don't do any refunding. And but we have learned over the years to have empathy.
Yeah.
And that's a good example because it's like we have rules within the business for reasons, but sometimes we just have to look at people as a human and then include our homeowner and try to work out the best case scenario, which is, because it's true. And I do think like being in the vacation rental industry is even more important now because of what you talked about, because of that quote, like, because everyone is bombarded every day by so much crap and there's just so much heaviness that all the more reason why people need a break.
Right.
And when they take that break, that it should be good and not ruined by a door lock that doesn't work or a thermostat that doesn't work or the grill or whatever. Like all the more reason that everything should be perfect so they can actually get a break while they can on their little vacation and then get back to all the drama of life.
And on this end, you learn not to take it personally because, at the end of the day, they know it's not my fault that the door lock didn't work or the fireplace went out.
Or once they take a breath, they can
But I've got that, I'm the guy on the end of the phone, that's
someone's going to
there
get
to listen to him. Somebody's going to get it, whoever picks up basically. And so it's just something to keep in mind in the environment these days. And it's like, it just is,
it's a lot.
It's a lot that makes me sad. Really, it doesn't need to be that way.
Yeah.
So.
Well, we're doing our part to like make people happy
as much as we can
to our team. Like sometimes, and I know it sounds so cheesy, but it's like, making a really nice experience for people over and over the thousands of times we do it per year. It's like, even if it's only a tiny percentage of those people that then take their good experience and then go out and do something else for someone else in the world. And maybe they end up, I don't know, helping in the cure for cancer or helping solve world hunger or whatever. Like we might have played some little part by, giving them a good experience. At least that's what I tell myself. But it's not just like all for naught.
The other thing is I do have a background in 5-star hotels. Some people aren't happy unless they're unhappy and tearing somebody a new one.
Right.
That's how they go on vacation and that's how they have their fun.
Right. And
so
that's who they are.
That's just who they are.
And you're not going to make them happy.
Right.
So we still want to do everything we can to try, but we can be like, it's okay. Like we're going to do what we're supposed to do. We're going to go above and beyond. And if that still doesn't keep someone happy, then we have to be able to move on and start with the next guest. Totally agree. Okay, I feel like this was a good one.
Okay, good.
I hope if anyone ever listens to this podcast, I think my mom will.
My wife.
So hopefully you guys liked it.
Hopefully she won't turn it off after the first 30 minutes.
And then if anyone else listens, hopefully they get some good nuggets. I feel like you gave him a lot. Mark has a lot of experience in this industry and like he's good at what he does and he just shared some of his secrets. So I feel like that's a big deal. So thank you.
Good. And I'm going to send that link to you.
Do it.
The best of it. It's really cool.
I can't wait. All right. Well, thanks for all the listeners. There's millions of you, I'm sure. And we will come back with another episode next week.